Welcome. Welcome to the Burgundy Gold Knuckleheads podcast. You know who the man over there is. He's always here with me, my main man, Reggie. What's going on, Reg?
Yes, sir. What's going on, man? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. Just fighting this summer heat like everybody else. But besides that, it's football season, so I'm happy.
Well, what's different about this podcast, man, is we actually are going to discuss football, NFL tackle football, for the first time since I don't know what, January.
Yeah.
We can discuss an actual game.
Yeah.
So this makes this podcast a little bit different from the perspective of, man, we are officially, air quotes, officially football, the new season. Having our first preseason game, man, and in typical Washington fashion, we had to wait an hour, right?
Yeah. The rains came through, and there was a question on whether the game was even going to take place because of the rain and thunderstorms and the fact that it was a preseason game.
Yeah, so we had to have the old weather delay, and then all of a sudden, to your point, we wasn't even sure we'd have the game, and voila, the game gets off, and we're all excited about a preseason game. You would have thought it was week one almost, man.
Yeah.
But we're talking tackle football for the first time in a long time, so officially.
Yeah, and preseason is just that. It's preseason, but we'll share our knee-jerk overreactions for preseason, right? That's right. What they all are. This is, I mean, it's all practice, right? It's feeling your way through this. Defensively, you're getting the feel of playing with everybody and calling everything out. Offensively, learning the plays, learning the routes, the blocking schemes, and it's a whole new offensive system. The defense has been in the same system now for its third year. Is that correct? 3 years? Third year or fourth year. But anyway, so they've played in the same system. Right. A couple new moving parts within there, but most of the offense is the same. Same can't be said for the offensive side of the ball. New quarterback, a couple new offensive linemen, a lineman or two that are moving positions. And again, learning a whole new system. So a lot more moving parts on the offensive side.
Well, yeah, and there were lots of things that we were interested in looking at, because there's a lot of intrigue, right? To your point, there's a lot of moving part, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. A lot of different new pieces. I don't say a lot of new pieces, but a major piece at the quarterback position. We've got a new offensive coordinator, new offensive system, and oh, by the way, four new offensive line, but basically 4 guys in different positions. I understand Leno and Cosme are returning, but Cosme is playing a different position. We know he's going from right tackle to right guard, and then we have a new center, new left guard, and a right tackle. So a lot of moving parts on the offensive side of the ball. And I think everybody was intrigued. And then, of course, the rookies, primarily Quan Martin and Emmanuel Forbes. But we got a chance to see all of these guys, man. So I guess we could get into, our thoughts on the game. I don't know where you want to start.
Well, one thing I'd like to say that there's a picture of it out there, but you had the rain delay, an hour plus, and our new owner, Josh Harris, and his son they weren't up in a suite. They were down in the stands. I'm sure they had good seats. I couldn't tell what
they were
where exactly they were, but they were probably midfield, somewhere around the 15, 20 rows back. But they hung out, stuck out the rain, sat out there with the people and watched the game. And again, it's such a minor thing, but it's just another thing that connects to the fans and shows that you're not, while you're a millionaire, you're just a fan like the guy who bought the seat
No.
right next to
Correction.
you.
He's a billionaire. Okay? He's not a
I'm sorry,
millionaire.
billionaire. I did say millionaire.
Yeah.
Sorry to shortchange you a few $100 million there, Josh. But my point is, he's watching the game exactly how you and I would watch the game.
Right.
Right.
And
Drained it. Yeah. Go ahead.
And that was the big thing, is everyone talked about the fact that this guy, well, I won't say this guy, but typically owners are in a suite. But
Correct.
Josh Harris chose to be down in the stands. And there was a report said that, it was a little distraction because a lot of fans wanted to talk to him, primarily thanking him, for buying the team and so forth and so on. But the fact that he was down amongst the fans in the element spoke volumes to the fan base and everything. So that was kind of cool to see, man. That was really cool to see.
Yeah, I don't think it's something, to your point of being a distraction. That's not something he's going to be able to continue to do, I don't think, throughout the season. But again, he's showing up at training camp. He's showing up at the game. He's showing up at places to connect to the people. He is, from everything that I hear, he's there, but he's not intrusive. Right. He's in a supportive role. He's got their backs. He's building or continuing to build the brand back any way that he can without being intrusive to the football that's being done on the field. So it's been a very, very short window, but he's done everything right up to this point. So
absolutely.
Kudos to Josh Harris and the owners up to this point. But besides that, we have a discussion about the game.
Yes.
As I kind of, we talked about going into the game, a few things that we wanted to see. By no means did we get necessarily answers to everything, but we did get a chance to have a one game preseason idea on a lot of the things we talked about.
Okay.
Sam Howell, far and away the number one thing, and how he handled pressure, because the offensive line made sure that he had pressure. But he was mobile. From an offensive coordinator perspective, they rolled him out and moved the pocket, which helps him, helps the play, helps the offensive line.
Yep.
And I talked about this initially when Bieniemy was hired. He's not at the level of Mahomes, but he has similar skill set as Mahomes, and Mahomes does a lot of rolling out, right? So we're already seeing that. It's just preseason, but we're already seeing some of the things that are similar to what Mahomes does. A lot of quick, some quick hits, and then let the receivers go. And so overall, from what I saw from Hal, again, very vanilla defense, very vanilla offense, but it didn't give me anything to go to think that he is not the guy to continue with at this point and allow him to grow.
I agree. We were actually watching the game together, and so we made the comment that North Scott Turner, even with how bad the offensive line played last season, and he had a mobile quarterback in Taylor Heineke, he never moved the pocket.
Correct.
And in the first preseason game, we see a design rollout of Sam Howell by Eric Bieniemy to move the pocket. Right. Let the pressure stay over there, and you just roll the guy out, and you have someone dragging across the formation there, and boom, and he hits the guy for open pass. And so it was good to see. What was also good to see is it was very evident that whether that's going to be part of the offense or it was an adjustment that was made due to the pressure, but it was a lot of quick pass. Right. I mean, it was like he dropped back and then boom, the ball was out to a tight end or a receiver that seemed to be 5 to 8 yards from the line of scrimmage, and it was just a completion, and you keep the chains moving. And that was a lot of quick pass. It wasn't about 7-step drop and just going for the big play downfield every time. Right. It was just keep the offense moving, keep the chains moving, and kind of mix and match. And so that was very clear that the short game, whether it would be as part of our offense, it's certainly is part of our arsenal that we can use.
Right.
to offset the offensive play, or if nothing else, just as a change up during the game. So that was good to see. One other thing is, I think leading up to this, whether it was leading into training camp and during training camp, we talked about the offensive line being a concern. I know it was certainly my number one concern. And although I walked away from the first preseason game thinking, okay, the game wasn't too big for Sam. He looked poised, and when the play wasn't there, he moved and threw the ball away and those types of things. The offensive line has me a little nervous. I'm not panicked, but I'm concerned. I need to see some improvement from the offensive line because, as I've stated before, man, they do not have the luxury to get off to a slow start while still trying to gel on the offensive side of the ball, man. I mean, case in point, Cleveland didn't have Myles Garrett playing, and certainly they didn't design any defense for our offense. And you can make the argument that our offense didn't design any plays for their defense.
Right.
However, it was mano a mano and vanilla versus vanilla. And by the looks of it, Cleveland won that matchup in the trenches. Their defense got their first string defense got the best of our first string offensive line, that is.
Offensive line.
And that wasn't very encouraging. We don't need Sam Howell running for his life back there. We want him to get some protection. We can get back there, man, and go through his reads. And so I'm not panicked, but it certainly didn't alleviate any of my concerns when it came to the offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I think again, without overreacting, we still have a month, right? There's a month's worth of practice. There's a scrimmage against Baltimore, and then 2 preseason games on top of that, plus all the practices. So, we're not saying anything that Washington and even the players themselves, no, they got to play better. And we've talked throughout the season that if Howell has a solid season, with the playmakers that he has, they can have a lot of success. But the offensive line needs to give Howell a chance to put it into the hands of those people.
Right.
Again, we don't need to be a top 5 offensive line, but you can't be a bottom 5 or bottom 10 and have success in this league. It just doesn't happen that way. So we'll see what happens. One of the things that I forgot to mention about Hal that I like to see is, he had everybody was kind of getting happy because with Cole Turner caught 4 passes, and I know on at least 2, if not 3 of them, I'm going to say 2. I think it was just 2. He was the check down, right? So he's going through his reads and he's getting comfortable with his tight end as being his safety release. And that's exactly what you want. You want the release. You want your tight end, as an example, to be your safety valve, and for him to be open to be able to be that person. Right. And on both cases, to Cole Turner's credit, he was open and moved to the spot that was open. And then Hal, as he was going through his first or second check, it wasn't there. Maybe the pressure was coming. Let me pop it over there to Turner and make a positive play. So on both sides, for Hal and for Cole Turner, I gotta give them both a thumbs up on the game for the way that all worked out.
No doubt about that. On the offense, another thing on the offensive side, Jahan Dotson, man. It's funny because I know I said it on one of our podcasts, and I think I said it during the last season, and you kind of looked at me like, hold on, pump the brakes. And I've even commented on Twitter before talking about how Jahan Dotson could end up being better than Terry. And I'm not seeing anything to make me change my mind, Ken. And I know it was just one preseason game.
Right.
And by me saying that Jahan can be better than Terry is not a knock on Terry by any means. I mean, I would love to have that 1-2 punch, but one of those guys is going to be better than the other,
Well, the
right?
only thing I would
They're not
change,
going to be equal.
yeah,
And
what I would
so,
change on that is I don't think Dotson will necessarily be better than Terry, but he could be more productive, right? As a second or third receiver, however you use him, whether it's in the slot, whether it's out. But if you go back,
hey man,
this is
it's a
roughly
production based business.
this is roughly 2 weeks ago to 3 weeks ago. Dahami Brown put out a kind of his own promo video where they were down in Florida, and for 2 days they were practicing, and I commented again. This is just a promo video with a lot of stuff around Dahami Brown and his training, and then they were out.
Yeah, they were working out.
Everything. As you watch that, I commented. I said, "Man, Dotson's route running." And they sometimes they didn't even have anybody covering, or they had somebody lightly covering, no pads, no nothing like this. It was noticeably different. Just the way his route running was, how smooth he was in and out of his breaks, just the way he caught the ball. It was like he was just had such gentle hands and just pulling it in. The ball didn't hit his
Smooth with
hands.
it, man.
He just grabbed it and pulled it in, right?
Smooth with it.
And he just continues to do that. He did that last year. We saw it on the catch. We had 2 catches, but the one with the touchdown that he had in the preseason, the defender didn't stand a chance of covering him. Caught it. He made a move, cutting in between the guys for a touchdown. Man, just super smooth, super smooth.
I will say it again. It will not surprise me if this kid ends up being better than Terry. And I understand why the fans love Terry. I'm a huge fan of Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin was a bright spot, man, when it was very dark around this franchise. So by no means, I can like both of those guys, but I still think that just based on for some reason, I just think that Jahan has the potential to end up being a better receiver than Terry, and that says a lot about Jahan because we already believe that Terry's a hell of a
Absolutely.
receiver.
I as good as Terry is, if you tell me somebody's going to be better than him on the team at the same time,
I'll take it.
I'll take it, and
Yep.
And it makes Howell's job just a little bit easier, and whoever whether that other person is Curtis Samuel or Pringle or whoever Dahami Brown, whoever that third receiver is going to be, makes their job even just that much easier. So
I will say, I hope that Kashmir Allen ends up being our punt returner. It was good to see that guy's got a lot of speed and looks like he's comfortable in that role,
right,
and returning punts, and kicks, and things of that nature. I hope that the Dax Mill experiment is over, and so we move on from that.
Well, I mean, Allen, he needs to, and I'm not saying he's not going to, but you muff a ball or two or fumble a ball or two, and it changes things real quick, right? But he looked good on the first preseason, absolutely.
But to be an undrafted guy playing his first NFL game, again, the moment didn't look too big. He did this role in college.
Yep.
So he seems to be very comfortable with it at the NFL level. I mean, even the greats muff and fumble the ball. I mean, and for it to have been in a game not last night, but the night, Friday night with the rain and the wet balls and conditions and things.
Yeah.
I got no problem with it. So I hope the Dax Mill experiment is over.
Well, both of them are going to make the team based off of special teams.
I don't care. I just don't want to see Dax back there doing punts.
No, but I'm saying if whichever one rises to the top to take the job, it's going to be because of their special teams work, whether it's returning punts or coverage or whatever. It's not going to be, they're not breaking into the top 5 at wide receiver based off of the receivers that we have healthy right now, right? So, hey, make your mark wherever you can, and be a be a productive tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
go ahead.
I was going to say you commented on the offensive line, which was definitely a concern. I don't really have anything to add to what we had other than they just got to get better. On the defensive side, everybody was looking at the two rookies, right? The first and second round, and we got a little mixed view of the two. I think both of them are going to be damn fine players, to say the least. But Forbes looked good, man.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. He did. Again, you try not to get too high, too low on it. People talked a lot about his weight, but he seemed to have belonged on the field out there with the NFL guys. My only overall, I'm not concerned about the defense. Let me just preface that by saying I'm not overly concerned about the defense.
Yep.
But if I'm going to nitpick the game, first preseason game,
I know what you're going to say, and I agree. Before you even say it,
it was just the lack of tackling. I mean, you got to be able to
of the quarterback.
Well, you got to be able to finish these plays, man. I mean, this league is littered with mobile quarterbacks, right? It's not like the old days where you on your schedule you may play two guys,
right?
You're going to play the majority of the guys who have the ability to extend plays. So you have to have lane containment, and you have to be
everybody just in your division. Right.
And of course, in our division, but just in general,
division, everybody, every single quarterback.
So you have to be able to, when you get there, you got to finish the play. And Deshaun Watson, prototypical quarterback in today's game, I mean, he just ran up and down the field. Now, granted, the defense did the old bend but don't break thing that we've seen in the past, where they did the goal line stand.
Right.
But for crying out loud, man, you didn't even have Nick Chubb in the game. And if Nick Chubb was in the game, maybe they scored that. I don't know, but. Right. Deshaun Watson was the reason that they pretty much marched down the field in their opening possession, and practically, with the exception of the goal line stand, almost scored a touchdown, man, on our first string defense. So again, not to overreact. I know it's preseason, but come on, man, like,
right.
I think where this is frustrating is I recognize the first preseason, but where it's frustrating is this is very typical of what happens when we get off to a slow start. And everybody says, and even the team is talking about how we can't get off to a slow start as a defense. Well, this would be an indication of kind of a slow start. You letting the team just move up and down the field kind of deal. And it was like, I haven't seen you do anything different. Again, it's preseason game number 1.
Right.
And then you're going to have another dose of this just next week. OBJ, Lamar Jackson, Baltimore is loaded with running backs. Again, I don't know who's all going to play, but it's like, this is the kind of stuff, man, you guys got to be able to get off the field. But big picture, am I overly concerned? No, but I would have liked to have seen them kind of hold Cleveland to a little bit better on that opening drive, man. That was a little discouraging, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe they'll go back, just like they're going to go back and watch the tape, and I'm pretty sure this will be all right. We can't just show up because we're expected to be a top defense. We actually got to prove it. So maybe they'll cause them to get back on the grind a little bit.
Right. I don't disagree with anything you say. My only kind of asterisk on this would be, I think you mentioned it, that we're just playing a vanilla offense, or I'm sorry, a vanilla defense. And so I don't know that they were necessarily game playing. And then how the defense played, and then how much Watson played. If this would have been a game, you make adjustments throughout, right? And it's not uncommon for a team to go down, get a first score, whether it's a touchdown, field goal, they march down, and then afterwards the defense will make those adjustments that they need to make. Doesn't always happen, but it's not uncommon for that to happen either, that adjustments are made and now the defense starts playing well after the first drive, after they see what they're doing. I'm not trying to make that as an excuse, but again,
I hear what you're saying, man, but slow starts is our calling card, and we got to do better. However we do it.
I don't disagree. I'm not trying to negate what you said, because I mean, last year, the first 4 or 5 weeks, the defense was was horrible.
It's terrible.
We were bad on the offensive line. We were bad at quarterback. We were bad defensively. And again, we're just trying to point out some concerns. But again, it's a month away. It's preseason, almost like practice. So we'll
yeah,
see how
it
it goes.
is, except with the exception of the fact that it's a system they already know. I guess my point being is I'm giving the offense a little bit of a pass because it's all new. The defense, this is not new, guys. So come on. I mean, I need you to be out there and kind of like not show in the preseason a lot of the same traits that we saw during the season in years past, and
Right.
that is always equated to slow starts. And it always ends up being games that got away from us early in the season that ends up biting us in the butt in the end of the season, because there was a game or two or three that happened early on when we were getting off to our slow starts, that if we had had those wins, it could have been the difference in making the playoffs. So just get it together. It's week one. I get it, but I'm just asking you to get it together, man.
Yeah.
But other than that, I didn't have a whole lot of issues elsewhere with the defense as a whole. They did fine. I know everything was going on Twitter. Quan Martin posted where he's scrolling through his social media and all of I mean, he's just scrolling through, man. You can see it's just nothing but they wasted a second round pick. Quan sucks. He had a bad game. And he's watching all this. And in one part of thinking, man, don't worry about that. In another sense, if it's fuel for him and whatever, I didn't think the kid had a bad game. I mean, granted, not everyone's going to show up and be an all pro after their first game. It's just not going to happen, man. So
I guess the only, what I thought about was, drawing a blank. What's his name? The league done messed up.
Oh, Dwayne Haskins.
Dwayne Haskins. And I don't want to hear that you're taking receipts and the league done. Just play better. I agree. I have high expectations for him. I think he's going to be a very, very good player on this team, and has a role of being able to, play. I think he's going to be a potentially a very dangerous Buffalo nickel type of safety, where he's almost a linebacker. He's almost a safety. He's almost a cornerback. Can do a lot of things, and I expect Jack Del Rio to scheme him up and use him as a tool.
Let me just say this: I have no worries about Quan Martin. So
at this point, I don't either.
Yeah,
I don't either.
As of now, I got no worries about Quan Martin. So
Right.
I don't know what all these dumbass people were talking about. The guy sucked. It was a waste of pick and blah blah blah. Was it his best game? Probably not. Would he have liked to have played better in his first NFL game? I'm sure he would have.
Right.
But am I overly concerned? No, not at all. Not at all. So I don't have a whole lot of things to nitpick on the defensive side of the ball. I'm more interested in probably how things are next week, because again, with the league now having 3 preseason games instead of 4, that second game tends to be the one your starters play the most. And we're gonna play playoff caliber team in our second preseason game against the Ravens. Right. So let's see what changed between preseason game 1, preseason game 2, and of course they're going to have that scrimmage.
Yeah.
That what they call it. It's not an interleague, but basically, where the two teams are going to work out for practices for 2 days this week. So they'll have the scrimmage together, and then they'll have the preseason game. So I'm looking forward to that and see what we see different from our team.
Yeah. What are the odds that during the practice at least a small level fight breaks out?
It'll break out.
Yeah, I anticipate it also.
Now, I'm gonna go on a prediction.
Go ahead, man.
The fight that will break out will be our defense and their offense.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be our offense and their defense. I think it's gonna be our defense and their offense gonna get into it.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. One last note that I have about the game. other than a couple tweaks, we didn't have any major injuries. So that's always a good thing. Like I said, any injuries that or tweaks that we had, those people are expected to, maybe even play at the Baltimore game. Worst case, they would sit out that and play the next game. But at this moment, everybody would be ready for opening day, because anything that's tweaked or twisted or sprained is very minor at this point. So
Right.
that's definitely a positive thing, because there were players or for teams they lost for the season on the first preseason game.
Really? I didn't hear that. I didn't hear of any.
Yeah, there were, I think, the Colts lost somebody, I believe.
Okay.
For the
Well,
season.
we talked about trying to get out training camp and preseason healthy, and so we'll keep our fingers crossed, man, and hope that that continues into week 2 and 3. I mean,
Yeah,
preseason games 2 and 3, and training camp for that matter.
right.
So it was good, man. It was good. It was good to get the W. I mean, I'm not into wins and losses when it comes to the preseason game, but
Correct.
from a morale perspective, I'm sure it was good for the guys to get the W no matter what. And
Right.
so it was good. It was good to get to do that, get a win, and on the Baltimore, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Figure out what you did right, figure out what you did wrong, and make the corrections. And I think even after the Baltimore game, we may be. I'm not predicting this, but we may say, man, the offensive line played well, but you know, Joe Schmo dropped 2 passes. We can't have that. The highs and lows are going to change here through the preseason. Normally, when you get to the season, all that rust is off. They're not thinking about plays. They're just doing the plays because at that point they've done them hundreds and hundreds of times. So we'll be here through the entire preseason and obviously all through the regular season to talk about it and evaluate. And yeah, it should be exciting.
Looking forward to it.
So
Well, that's all we got, man. That's our review of our takes on preseason game 1 against the Brownies, and we'll be back to talk about preseason game 2 against the Ravens, right?
absolutely.
So until next time, y'all, peace out.
Peace out, knuckleheads.